That means in the history of the NFL, Eli Manning is in the top 10 in 4 very important categories in both his passing yards, touchdowns, total offense, and game-winning drives. And I really liked the point of that game-winning drives. As an Eagles fan, we had to sit through a lot of crap watching Eli Manning win some very key drives at the end of the game. And, I mean, as much as we have a winning record against him, the Eagles have beaten Eli Manning at our stadium. We have a winning record against him. So we've had some successes, but we've also had some painful games where Eli Manning really tore us apart. So I think that, in respect to this man, this guy who is so great to the Giants organization, I have to say it was a hell of a career, and he will be in the Hall of Fame.
Welcome to the ChadBurn Show, brought to you by M. Chad Baldwin.
Welcome to the ChadBurn Show. I am your host, M. ChadBurn, and as always, running behind the scenes, the one, the only, the incredible Julien Renvoise. Say hello to the folks, Julien. There he is. Well, folks, again, we had an incredible championship weekend. We had the Chiefs obviously take on the Titans and win to move on to get Andy Reid again to the Super Bowl and give him a chance to finally cap off a Hall of Fame career with a Super Bowl win. And the 49ers take care of business at home against the Packers. We're going to do a little recap of those two games and kind of in setting up for a preview for Super Bowl Sunday, which we'll obviously be covering next week. And then finally, I would like to talk a little bit about Eli Manning, and we'll have a ChadBurn segment at the end. So lots of great stuff for you today on the show. Really excited. It's getting sad. We're getting towards the end of the football season. Pro Bowl is today because obviously we're recording on Sunday. And then we will be moving on to Super Bowl. And then once the Super Bowl is done, football's over, folks. We're moving on to basketball. A lot of great things going on there. Obviously, I am talking about the Sixers. They will be the focus. They had another great win against the Lakers last night. It did get close at the end after being up more than 20 points. They get within 5. But I will say, even without a jump shot, there is something special about Ben Simmons. I know he needs that jump shot to be elite. I just think about how incredible he could be if he had that in his repertoire, if he had that in the weapons ready to go. But watching him on defense and then offense, he is a complete player. And when people are trying to put Trae Young over him as a starter in the All-Star game, they are being ridiculously stupid because Trae Young can score, but the man is a liability on defense. Ben Simmons gets steals, assists, rebounds. He's tough in the paint. So I will give him credit. Now, if you look at his shot chart, though, it's all within the restricted zone. It's pretty hilarious. He will not shoot anywhere outside from there, but he is still efficient while doing so. A couple key shots last night from Al Horford. Really love seeing him get a part in that game, especially with him beat out. We need the bigs to be very important. Love watching Thibault. Again, defense is crazy with him, and he continues to score, but there's a lot great coming from the Sixers. The season's rolling on. It's a tight race between 4 through 6 in the East, with the top 3 kind of a little bit further ahead. Obviously, with the Bucks, the Heat, and Celtics. So, the Sixers are there. They can be in the top 3 easily with a couple wins, a couple of the other teams losing, but we shall see. So that will be our next section of our season of the ChadBurn Show. Will be basketball, but we still have time to enjoy and talk a little football. In fact, I tried to this morning actually start watching over. I was looking through kind of the condensed version of the games of these championship games because they were very exciting. There was a lot to know about it, a lot going on. I, of course, was wrong in both my picks. I was 0 for 2. I picked both the Titans and the Packers as the underdog run, trying to go with a feel-good story for both teams. However, both did end up losing pretty decisively. But we'll go through the games first. Titans-Chiefs was I was thinking it was going to be a really close game because obviously I thought if Derrick Henry could keep going fast, control the clock, keep Mahomes off the field, that there would be an opportunity for them to win. And at the start, it looked like it. They got off firing. Tannehill was killing the play action. Henry's averaging still at that point about 4 or 5 yards per carry. He had a couple big carries over 10 yards plus. Tannehill was hitting A.J. Brown down the field, Juju Smith, Davis. It was a really good flowing offense. Everything seemed to be clicking. Obviously, they're up 10-0. They then get, Chiefs get those 7 points to go up 17-7. They let the Chiefs crawl back in 70-14, and then things start slipping away right before the end of the first half, where they allow the Chiefs to go in less than 2 minutes down the field with Mahomes running a big run. I think it was over 20 yards for a touchdown. It was incredible to see Mahomes do that, and just was credit to what that offense is, which is Mahomes keeps it going. That offense scores fast, that offense scores decisively, and that offense runs through Mahomes. Mahomes is a quarterback that, similar to Russell Wilson, keeps plays going. Now, we saw him get sacked a little early in the game, and there were a few at the end of the game. But as you could see, he had at least 8 runs for 53 yards and a TD, and they were crucial runs, a lot on third down. And the Titans, to their credit, did have the spy. They were able to kind of contain him in some cases, but whenever they applied pressure, Mahomes kept the play going. And he had receivers open down the field they was able to get the ball to. On the run, he can throw easily. He can throw outside the pocket wherever he wants to. And you just always have weapons that get open for him when the play breaks down. Tyreek Hill is a great connection with this quarterback. He's always coming back to him when he needs to. Kelsey obviously just sits and plants in the middle when the play breaks down. Is just a great target if you need kind of the quick check down. He's always going to be there available, sure hands, and can sometimes break off for a few more yards after the catch. So the game started off, obviously the Titans looked like they were in control, that it was going to be kind of their type of story with the run game, efficiency. But what happens is we saw through that first half, and then later in the second, the Chiefs were able to stop Henry. They were able to really load up in the box. They were getting 4 bodies on him every time he went across the line. And once they contained that run, it all of a sudden turned to Tannehill. And Tannehill had to be relied upon. Now, he still had 209 yards and 2 passes, one to that awesome trick play to the offensive lineman, and then obviously later down the game, late in the game, but I would say at that point it was a little out of reach for them. But once they had to rely on Tannehill, you saw the Chiefs were comfortable and more in the driver's seat. Because, again, once the Titans could no longer really contain Mahomes, they were just able to score at will. I mean, it was really incredible. They were scoring in drives under 2 minutes from the 20-yard line down the field. And that just shows how explosive that offense can be. Tyreek Hill can always beat his man if it's man coverage. And so if you're going to try and blitz on Mahomes to try and get on him and get a sack, and you're going to send extra men, extra cornerbacks, and leave those wide receivers out one-on-one on man defense, they can't cover him. Tyreek Hill has said many a times, if man coverage, they are confident that they will get open. Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, McCole Hardman now, who is also a speedster, great on special teams, but also becoming dynamic in the wide receiver game. And the running backs can get open and catch too, whether it's Damian Williams. So I think that this is a complete offense. I completely undersold them when we were looking to last week. They just have too many weapons for any team they go against. And that's going to be this key. I think they are the clear favorites going to the Super Bowl. You could see that no matter how much they're down by, they always are in the game. Their defense is playing unlike we've seen all year. Tyrann Mathieu looks like a beast in the secondary. He was laying big hits against the Titans. He was always in the right spot in coverage. He was just able to lock down receivers. And so seeing now a defense for the Chiefs help and get them into positions to win is an amazing thing to see on this run, because that was always a liability early in the season where people were not sure if the Chiefs could go long, would be the fact, can this defense keep up with this offense? And they're there now. We saw the best defense all year, which was the New England Patriots, get torched by Henry. We saw another great defense in the Ravens absolutely get torched by Henry. And the Chiefs finally were able to get pressure on him, contain him, not allow him to bounce outside where he's even more deadly. There was no one-on-one trying tackles in the open field with him. They had 3-4 guys on him at all times. And that was just a breath of fresh air to see a defense really lock in on it. And they were willing to take that kind of really load up on Henry and take chances with Tannehill, which is what they had to do. Tannehill is a decent quarterback, but he's not going to win the games like Mahomes. So I think to see that this defense of the Chiefs can be competitive, can really be strong, really puts them up there, because the other team that we'll talk about next, 49ers, have the great defense, but sometimes their offense, you never know which kind of offense will come out there. Mahomes, will produce. And again, 294 yards, just 6 yards shy of 300 yards, 3 touchdowns throwing for and 1 touchdown running for. The man's a beast. He throws only over 30 times, 35 times, and that's a lot. But, like, he's not going into the 40, 50 range. You saw the Ravens lose with Lamar Jackson. When they put it in his hands, he had to throw 50 times. They lost. But if you give it to Mahomes, he's efficient with 35 passes, and he gets almost 300 yards. It's amazing. The guy can really throw. Once again, credit to the wide receivers. Watkins with 114 yards. Tyreek Hill with 67. They really just were always available when they needed to be. When things broke down, they were open. So credit again to the Chiefs. I really should have obviously picked them. They were the favorite team for a reason. Titans, again, came out fast, 17 points in the first half, but then never scored again until the fourth quarter. Too little, too late. The other game that we saw, which is where at least in the Titans-Chiefs game, we saw some competition early on, Packers did not get off the bus, apparently. They were not ready to play that game against the 49ers. They looked completely lost at the start. There were no points in the first half by the Packers. Are you kidding me? With Aaron Rodgers on your team, with the weapons like Davante Adams, here's what's even sadder, okay? No points the second half. In that game, Rodgers threw over 326 yards on 39 attempts. He had 2 touchdowns in that game, not till the second half. Davante Adams, 138 yards receiving. How do you not somehow get in the red zone? A lot of it, I think, is due is they had 0 run game. The 49ers basically came out and said, because this season we've seen the Packers finally had a run game with Aaron Jones, and it was looking like they had a balanced attack where Rodgers wasn't completely relied on to throw over 40 times a game in order to win. He had now running backs he could rely on. Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones are a great combo there. The 49ers basically said, you will not have a run game. We were taking that out. They will not get yardage in this game, and Rodgers, you'll have to do it all on your own. And Rodgers just could not win that game. The defense of the 49ers looked great. They held the run game, 3 running backs in that game, to 62 yards. They were just willing to let go through the air, and when it came down to the red zone, they held them tight. It was amazing. Now, I know we'll say the 49ers had 2 picks off of Aaron Rodgers, but let's be real. One was only critical in the game. The other one was very late. It was Richard Sherman late in the game, kind of just to seal it up, a deep pass. So, really Rodgers still had a solid game, but they just could not get it done in the red zone. 49ers, on the other side, they don't throw the ball at all. Jimmy G passes for only 77 yards, and they go all run game, which is so much fun to watch. Mostert had over 220 yards running with an average of 7.6 yards. You give the ball twice to Mostert that average, and you have a first down. That's all it took. They basically told Jimmy G, they were like, look, you don't need to throw the ball. We are going to have you just turn around, pivot, give the ball to Mostert. And in the whole scheme of things, the rest of the wide receivers with Coleman and the rest also had another 65 yards added on top of that. They had almost 300 yards rushing. There was no need for the running game, the passing game at all. Kittle, 1 catch. And they destroyed the Packers. So that goes to show you on that type of offense, and that's what I was saying. Their defense, you can always rely on having a good game. And they shut down a very good offense in Aaron Rodgers. The problem is for 49ers, you don't know what's going to happen. You've seen Jimmy G go out in shootouts when he played against the New Orleans Saints. You've seen the run game come alive, like in this instance, where they're just going to only pass off to the hot hand, which is Mostert this time. It was Tevin Coleman a week ago. It was Mostert this time. They just ride the hot hand. But if you're just going to ride the hot hand and ride that running game, is that a strategy? Is that a game plan you can use and replicate every week? Because what if no one gets a hot hand? Who do you go with? So I think there are a lot of questions with 49ers. Like, will Jimmy G be ready when he needs to be a shootout? Will the running backs always show up? The Chiefs are going to get offensive production. Whether it's from running backs, whether it's from Mahomes running the ball, whether it's from Mahomes throwing the ball, there will be yards, there will be touchdowns, there will be scoring opportunities. And I even think with the 49ers elite defense, seeing the Titans, who had one of the best third down defenses, had really great secondary, had been shutting down teams, they went after Mahomes and could not get him. They had a couple sacks, but in general, Mahomes is getting outside the pocket and making stuff happen. Can the 49ers defense get to Mahomes? From what I've seen, I don't think so. He's like Russell Wilson, that he's always going to keep moving, and the communication between him and his receivers allow him to improvise and make big plays happen outside the pocket. with the Chiefs defense looking as good as they are right now, I think they can get after Jimmy G. And if they're able to stop a running back like Derrick Henry, I think they can absolutely stop a running back like Mostert or Tevin Coleman. Yes, they get going, but Mostert's not going to run for over 220 yards every game. So if that's going to be the case, if the Chiefs are able to stop the run game, can Jimmy G win on his arm? That's what we're going to see. I think the keys to this game coming up, and so this is going to be a great game versus Kansas City Chiefs or 49ers. I'm excited to see Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid's going to get him. We'll talk about it next week with a more in-depth coverage of the Super Bowl game. I think Andy Reid finally gets his first Super Bowl win. I would like to give a shout out to myself, by the way, because I said earlier in this football season that the Patriots would not get past the AFC Championship, would stop their run, and would not be in the Super Bowl, and that the Chiefs would be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. So I'm giving a shout out to myself on the ChadBurn Show. We called it here early in the season. Chiefs are going to make it there, even with all the injuries they had. They were going to make it a Super Bowl. They're there, Big Red in Andy Reid, not just Big Red in the Chiefs. Big Red Andy Reid, he's going to get his Super Bowl win. I think the Chiefs have obviously a more consistent offense. Their defense is playing at a high level. I think when they're going to be playing the 49ers down in Miami, the 49ers are going to have a tough time getting offensive production. And they're going to have a tough time keeping up with the Chiefs' high-flying offense. I like the 49ers. I think their defense is good. Obviously, it's one of the best in the league. But I think if it goes to man coverage, even Richard Sherman's not going to be able to keep up with Tyreek Hill. There's going to be a lot happening down. Nick Bosa's probably going to get a sack or two on Mahomes, but Mahomes in general is going to be really a wizard out there. And I think that's what's going to come down to. So I think, again, great AFC and NFC championship games. The favored teams, both of them favored by a touchdown or more, did win and decisively won. 49ers were probably more impressive in how much of a beatdown they gave the Packers, but I really loved watching the Chiefs game. I thought there was a lot there to be revealed about that team and how much of a championship team that is. I think even if the Ravens had been in that position in that kind of game, the Chiefs would beat the Ravens by how great they were playing. So I mean that run by Mahomes at the end of the second half, that was beast mode. I mean the delicate toe tapping along the sideline, cutting over, breaking a tackle, spin move, holding on to the ball when they're trying to rip it out. You just don't see that in every quarterback, and I think he is special, and that's what's going to really separate them when they come to this game next Sunday in the Super Bowl game. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So now turning away from the NFC and AFC championship games, I wanted to kind of give a little homage and talk a bit about a NFC East legend of quarterback in Eli Manning. Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer, and that's going to be our argument is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer and why? I'm saying yes. This man won 2 Super Bowls with 2 teams that came in on wild card position. They had to play on the road throughout all those playoff runs. They beat some of the best historic teams we've ever seen with the 16-0 Patriots, who were going for that undefeated bid. They were a dynamic Patriots team, and they beat them in almost it was a beautiful game. There are some highlight reels in Super Bowl that are some of the most famous ones in history, whether it be the Burris to win with the fade route in the end zone, whether it's David Tyree with the helmet catch, whether it's Manningham on the sideline between 2 cornerbacks. Eli Manning made passes when he needed to, and he was a clutch performer. But let's just go through the stats. Right? I'm gonna pull the book out here. All right, so we have the 2 Super Bowl wins. All-time yards in passing, he has 57,028. That puts him 7th all-time in the list. All-time, top 10. We also go to his TDs. 366 TDs in his career. 7th all-time again in that list. He's played in 236 games, a 4-time Pro Bowl. He is 7th all-time as well in total offensive production. And he's 10th all-time in game-winning drives. That means in the history of the NFL, Eli Manning is in the top 10 in 4 very important categories in both his passing yards, touchdowns, total offense, and game-winning drives. And I really like to the point of that game-winning drives. As an Eagles fan, we had to sit through a lot of crap watching Eli Manning win some very key drives at the end of the game. And, I mean, as much as we have a winning record against him, the Eagles have beaten Eli Manning at our stadium. We have a winning record against him. So we've had some successes, but we've also had some painful games where Eli Manning really tore us apart. So I think that, in respect to this man, this guy who was so great to the Giants organization, I have to say it was a hell of a career, and he will be in the Hall of Fame. I think that he just has really shown that even in times when he struggled, in times where the New York media was on his ass and was not giving him a break. He really brought that franchise again to a legitimate contender level almost every year until the end here, which is sad. It was a sad finishing of his career. I think he might have played a little too long for the career itself. I think he had obviously lost a few steps in the last 3 seasons. But in general, I mean, starting off being drafted by the Chargers and refusing to play for them and saying you must trade me, to then going to the Giants, to then taking them to 2 Super Bowls and winning both against the Patriots. He has plays, like I said, that will be known for all time as some of the greatest highlight reels in Super Bowl history. And he was such a consistent part of the NFC East. In both the NFL and the NFC East, he was just always a good quarterback every year, game in, game out. You always could rely at least on some big throws and late throws with Eli Manning. I think the NFL recently, saw on social media, the NFL put together his top 10 plays, and you'll see that half of them are in the fourth quarter on game-winning drives. The guy had ice in his veins. He knew how to win late. So you have to show respect to a guy like that. I think it's silly for anyone to say he's not going to go to the Hall of Fame. Statistically, and what he's done in his career, 2 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs at the Super Bowl, you have to give it to him. I think, anyone that's saying he shouldn't go is just really, you're a homer for your team. You just don't like him because he played for your rival. I think, we as anyone in the NFCs have to show respect to the guy that really got it done. So, big ups to Eli Manning. It's been a hell of a career. It's sad to see you go. You have been such a stalwart player in my life. I've always seen you on the Giants. You've been an icon to that Giants organization, and you represented the blue strong. You are a big part of the New York sports culture. So, I think it's going to be sad to see you leave the league. There's going to be a big hole to be filled by Daniel Jones and see if he can do it. But I think you should be proud of everything you accomplished. And really, from all of us fans out here, we just want to thank Eli Manning for making it a competitive several years, for giving the Eagles something to want to fight and beat. We really, the Eagles fans, we love to hate Eli Manning, and it's going to be sad not to have him there. Because, as much as, we respect saying, they're like, yeah, we love to hate on him. And who are we going to hate now, guys? We're going to have to, only Cowboys? Are we only going to hate Dak Prescott now and Zeke Elliott? Daniel Jones we don't hate yet. What are we going to do? I need someone in New York to hate, folks. Who do we go after? We no longer have the Hall of Famer that we can hate. We have to find the next one, the new Batman over there. But no, it's really fun. It's sad to see him go. It really is. It's a change in the guard. Really, now, I think the MCs you're seeing, we have all now young quarterbacks. You have Carson Wentz, franchise in the Eagles. Dak Prescott, franchise quarterback in the Cowboys. Looks like Daniel Jones, franchise quarterback in the Giants. Redskins, we still don't know. Dwayne Haskins could be it, obviously. That's the hope. But really, we got young quarterbacks on all 4 teams. It's a complete change in the guard. Now, I think it's cool to see. So it's a new generation in the NFC, so cannot wait for that. So now we're done and, giving our praise to Eli Manning. I think it's important that we now turn to our segment that is the famous one.
The ChadBurn Show Burnlist.
That's right, folks. We had the ChadBurn Burn List. We actually had someone comment on our Instagram page, the Girl and Guy Talk Podcast. Want to give them a quick shout out, mentioning that we had to go after a certain football organization that's in the news right now. And in fact, they were going to be the only one on our burn list today because I got a bit of a write-up for this one because it's a doozy. So obviously the first person, only team on our list today on the burn list are the
New Orleans Saints.
Yes, this is gonna be a sad and deep story, but bear with me here on this because there's a lot to unpack. So when you hear the New Orleans Saints, you of course think of the football team. You think of Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and obviously Kamara. You see in your mind the superfans dressed up as the Pope and bishops paying homage to their name, the Saints. Yet in all that makeup of the team and the name, never did I imagine it was connected to the actual Catholic Church. I imagined the name was for fun and represented the historically Catholic and religious area that is New Orleans. But what do you know? There is a connection after all. Turns out the owner of the Saints, Gail Benson, and the New Orleans Archbishop Gregory Amen are close friends. He is even seen in the owner's box from time to time at games and is an avid supporter of the organization. Miss Benson has even donated millions of dollars to Roman Catholic institutions. But that is not all. Due to this close relationship, the New Orleans Saints are now involved in, wait for it, a pedophilia scandal. No, this is not the start of a really bad joke where someone walks into a bar. Ironically, the head of the PR department of the Saints, Mr. Greg Bensel, is causing some bad PR for the team. In November 2018, names of clergymen and members of the Archdiocese of New Orleans were released as credible accusations of sexual abuse that had come to light. When the news broke, the Archdiocese reached out to Mr. Bensel, the PR head for the New Orleans Saints, to help handle the media around this sensitive issue. The closer relationship between the Archdiocese and the team made it possible that a request could even be made. Now, I think any sane person listening, and even those without years of PR experience, would be able to go, nope, no, not touching that with a 10-foot pole. This is clearly a lose-lose situation for anyone involved. Because even if you are not directly accountable for the actions of pedophiles in the church, and I will call them pedophiles because that is what they are, if you decide to help them with their PR problem, you are now taking their side. No matter the extent of your involvement, if you help them, you are now siding with the pedophiles. Well, unfortunately, that is how it went down. Bensel offered counsel on how to handle the major media outlets and the best way to confront the story. In Mr. Bensel's mind, he was just giving a client advice for free. It leads me to wonder how smart the Saints ownership is to even think it was appropriate to take the side of the church in this matter. Now, they of course have come out now and said they are in support of the victims and pray, which is a good one on their side, that they will find justice and be all right. A lot of good praying has done for these little boys. The Saints should have known better than to get their name involved in this. What makes matters worse is they seem to have truly known this would be bad for their name. Once the AP story broke about this whole scandal, the Saints organization worked to have the emails of Bensel and his department with that of the Archdiocese sealed and unavailable to be made public, overtly working to hide their ties to the heinous crime and scandal. If they did not think this in the public eye would look bad, they would not have gone to try sealing up those emails. Ignorance cannot be named for the fault of their lack of judgment. No one should ever side or aid in any way pedophiles. The Saints organization will have more damage control for the PR department now. But, based on the past actions of Bensel, it seems they may be up to the task.
ChadBurn.
And that, my friends, is our ChadBurn list topic of today. It's been very sad to read this story. It's been horrible, but it's been a shocker and one that I think a lot of people need to learn and take from. But again, Saints, what are you doing, guys? So after that, and after our final segment of the ChadBurn Show, I think it's all time we have left for it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening in and being a part of the show. We, of course, will be posting up clips from this podcast on our different social media pages. We're on Instagram, Facebook. We have our YouTube channel. If you like what you're listening to and like to learn out more about the show throughout the week, feel free to follow us on Instagram or give us a click for a subscription on YouTube. As always, we do post up updates on what our show will be about and when we'll be recording every week. We do release 2 p.m. on Sunday, so that's when this episode will be out. But as always, we just want to thank everyone for listening in. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can always reach out and send me an email at chadburn.show@gmail.com. Again, that is chadburn.show@gmail.com. You can also DM me on Instagram at ChadBurnShow. Always willing to talk with anyone, answer questions, bring stuff on the show. Happy to. We will be bringing on guests next week for the show as we get ready for our Super Bowl Sunday episode, and just continue to bring you some great content and make it some fun conversations. So, as always, thank you for listening in. We love having you guys a part of this and being a part of the ChadBurn family, and hope you all have a wonderful evening. Good night. Bye.